The Day the Worlds Met, a Mintrones storybook, conceived by Gavi, written by Team Mintrones, narrated by Holly Adams of Shearwater Productions, dedicated to children whose thoughts make life wonderful. A note from the author. This book was written to put into words the adventures of the Mintrones as my son imagined them. So it's an effort of a mom to document her son's thoughts. I have tried my best to bring his ideas alive here. The website, www.mintrones.com, offers a range of creature toys based on the characters in this book. This whole process of creating our company started when my son, who is 7 years old, came to us and told us that he would love to create his own toys. He drew some sketches of the creatures that inhabited an alien world called Planet Ziplo. He imagined their abilities, their world, and their adventures. We decided to go for it and create a range of toys based on his thoughts. In this process, he got to work with artists, prototype designers, and even the manufacturer to some extent in the design of the toys. It was an awesome experience for a little guy to take what was an idea and see a tangible product come from it. We had a lot of fun in this process as well. We thought it would be nice to give every child the same opportunity to be creative and enjoy being a part of an experience like this. From this was born the Create Your Own Mintrone contest. Your child can enter a design of a Mintrone into our contest. The entries get voted upon, and the winners get to be our next great toy designers. They also get paid royalty every time a toy of their design is sold to help fund their college. We are out to impact the lives of our children in a positive way, so go ahead and be part of this journey. We hope you have a blast doing it. For a limited time, when you download this book, read it, and rate it, we are offering a secret code required to enter the Create Your Own Mintrone contest. Send us an email to promos@mintrones.com if you have a chance to rate our book. Chapter 1. Ready, Set, Explore. It was the year 2833. The Earth as we know it had changed. The growing density of people had forced man to take to the sky. Anti-gravity homes that floated around were the norm in the cities of this day. The homes had propulsion systems that took people wherever they needed to go. The energy that powered the life came largely from the atmosphere. Mechanical birds with superchargers floated to the sky using helium. They rubbed against some dense clouds to accumulate charge, which they would deposit to a central power station that powered the cities. In this Earth of the future lived two young friends, Tyron and Rada. They were neighbors and got to play a lot together. They had a lot of imagination and dreamed up adventures every day. They were the kind of friends who loved to eat treats together. They loved to dance in the rain together. They knocked on each other's door all the time and couldn't wait to hang out together. They flew around in their flyaway zoomies all day. Rada was courageous, trusting, and adventurous. Tyron was more analytical and cautious. They had a great time growing up with each other. As time passed, Tyron and Rada's thirst for adventure grew bigger. Space travel was very common in these days. Now the two friends dreamed about exploring the infinite mysteries of the universe. Their dream finally came true when Tyron was gifted with an XT-10 Z5 spaceship by his inventor father on his 14th birthday. So, along with Rada, now 12 years old, Tyron set out to explore the very depths of space. They traveled together on many adventures and explored many new planets. They found that life, some more advanced and some more primitive than us, was more common in the universe than was previously believed. They made a great team and always looked out for each other. Together, they loved exploring new worlds and learning about new life forms. Chapter 2. Meet the Mintrones. As they were cruising across the universe, the locator in their spaceship sensed an unknown planet in their vicinity. Through their locator scope, they saw that it was a hemispherical planet. The entire planet seemed to be glowing in space. They decided it looked interesting enough to explore. Tyron sent signals back to Earth with their location, as was their practice before they went in to explore a new world. He had made a promise to his father that he would keep him informed of their whereabouts at all times. Rada the pilot locked on to the new planet as the target for the XT-10Z5 and announced, "New planet, here we come!" Tyron laughed and exclaimed, "The thought of visiting a new world always brings great excitement in me." Rada agreed with a smile as they zoomed closer to the planet. Their spacesuits hung in their cabinet. The suits looked like an armor and were designed to protect them from extreme weather conditions that they may encounter in their travels. Their helmets had special oxygen generators made from very rare algae they found on planet Tenoxys. They put on their spacesuits and helmets and got ready for descent. They reached the planet shortly. As they began to descend, the spaceship lurched. They saw really dark clouds as the spaceship moved downwards. They felt the spaceship be tossed around by the whirling winds that it was encountering. The winds around seemed so powerful that they felt as if it would rip apart their entire spaceship. Rada tried hard to hang on to the controls as they plummeted downwards. Suddenly, the spaceship found itself being spun around in a giant tornado. As the wind ripped around the spaceship, they could hear its deafening roar. Tyron and Rada were really worried now. It seemed as if this might be an adventure that they may not be able to get back from. Tyron had serious doubts about a safe landing for the spaceship. "Get to the escape pods!" Tyron yelled. The wind was blowing really hard now, and the spaceship was being flung around like a little toy. All around them, they heard the rumbling of the wind. As Rada started towards the escape pod, she was hurled to the floor of the ship. Tyron tried to move, but he was bounced against its walls, too. With a leap of strength, Tyron reached for Rada and pulled her hand. They both jumped into the escape pod. The automatic door shut behind them. As they slipped into the seats, the protect buckles came on. Tyron knew this would be their best chance of survival. If they needed to, they could abandon ship and eject out in their escape pod. As they braced themselves for the worst and waited, the rumbling stopped and everything was calm. The worst seemed to have passed now. The spaceship was now floating down calmly. Tyron and Rada waited for a few long minutes before they decided to come back to the control room of the spaceship. Rada regained control and started steering the spaceship towards a safe landing spot. They saw a large green area just below them. Rada steered the spaceship down to the area and brought it to a stop. They had landed, and safely. Tyron and Rada heaved a sigh of relief and gave each other a big hug before they headed outside. They exited their spaceship with their spacesuits to see the curious faces of very interesting creatures peering down at them. To Tyron and Rada, the faces of the creatures looking at them seemed very kind and friendly. Although Tyron and Rada did not sense any danger from them, they followed them cautiously. Translucent orbs that sparkle on the inside floated around them. Rada found them very beautiful. She reached out and tried to hold one of the orbs. It popped the moment she touched it, and a tiny spray of sparkle burst out of it. It sort of startled her. The creatures began to chant, "Zeppelin! Zeppelin! Zeppelin!" A green creature with a horn on its head and very vivid coloring on its many layers came forward. As they would learn later, this creature was Tornado Swirl, a part of the wind habitat where their spaceship had landed. Tornado Swirl led them to the entrance of a cave. When they looked inside, they saw a tunnel of deep blue light that seemed to go on forever. Tornado Swirl stepped in and gestured with its head for them to follow. Tyron and Rada gingerly stepped in. Suddenly, they seemed to be flowing down the light tunnel as if in a free fall. The tunnel of light was really a teleporter that ran along the surface of the planet and transported creatures between the different habitats. Tornado Swirl took them to the Salvadome, where they met the Great Scepter. As they entered the dome, they saw a crystal cube bathed in light from the sky. They heard a deep voice emanating from the cube, welcoming them to planet Ziplo. Chapter 3. Life on Planet Ziplo.
Welcome, humans, to the planet Ziplo, the world of the Mintrones. As I look into your mind, I see that you, Tyron and Rada, come in peace and are curious about our planet and us. I am Sceptor, the protector of the Mintrones. We are a diverse and peaceful race inhabiting a planet with a multitude of habitats. Our race is extremely intelligent and powerful, but will only ever use our powers to protect our planet and each other. I will provide you each with a dial of protection. These dials will ensure that you are covered with an invisible force shield and are protected from the extreme conditions you will encounter during the exploration of our planet. You will no longer need your helmets on Ziplo so long as you have these dials. These dials will also help you communicate with the Mintrones that you meet in the habitats. It will help you to understand our communication as if it were your own. When the Mintrones speak to you, you will hear a voice that speaks as one of your own. The Mintrone that brought you here is Tornado Swirl from our wind habitat. Octorion will be the Mintrone that will take you on a journey through Ziplo. Enjoy your time on our planet.
As Tyron and Rada listened raptly, they saw two dials appear right in front of Power Cube. As they brought the dials close to their chest, a band of light came out and made a ring around their neck, securing the dials to them. They took off their helmets and felt ready to explore. Rada said, "Thank you, Scepter. We look forward to learning about your world." Just then, a Mintrone with many legs and a big head came in. It spoke in a kind voice.
Welcome, guests of Planet Ziplo. You have just met Scepter. Scepter is the spirit that guards all Mintrones on planet Ziplo. All the powers of Scepter are concentrated in the crystal cube inside the Salvadome. I am Octorion, and I will be your first guide on this journey through Ziplo. Welcome to our world. We have a teleporter that runs along the surface of our planet and helps us travel among the various habitats. I will take you to visit all our habitats. In each habitat, I will hand you over to local Mintrones who will show you around and make sure no harm comes to you. The dials will stay on you at all times. There are many great Mintrones on this planet. We all coexist in peace. I will now take you to Cave Taz, where all Mintrones are born. It's great to meet you, Octorion. We look forward to exploring your world and learning more about the Mintrones that inhabit it. We thank you for being so warm and welcoming to us, responded Tyron as he followed Octorion with Rada. Octorion led them to Cave Taz, where the life begins and ends for all Mintrones on Ziplo. It was the most sacred place on the planet. All the source of life on this incredible planet came from its core. There in the core was the elixir of life.
The core connected to the center of Cave Taz through a tunnel that was capped with a cone-like structure. Surrounding this was a lava stream, a liquid pool, a meadow patch, and a windy hole with a tiny spinning tornado. The ceiling of the cave had sparkling geodes and crystals embedded into it. These were the centers that mapped to the varied habitats on Ziplo. Tyron and Rada could hardly believe their eyes.
"Wow! This is amazing!"
breathed Tyron. Octorian explained that on every new moon day on Ziplo, tiny globes popped out of the cone from the core, filled with the elixir of life. These egg-like globes launched out of the cone and landed on one of the habitat centers around it. Depending on where the globes landed and stayed on till ready, a lava mintrone or liquid mintrone or goo mintrone or meadow mintrone or wind mintrone or a crystal mintrone was born. The young mintrone that emerged from the globe then left Taz to find their habitat on the planet through the teleporter. Just as Tyron and Rada were about to leave Cave Taz, they saw one of the globes that was attached to the crystal ceiling drop. A tiny blue creature with red antennae peeked out of the broken globe that landed by their feet. Octorian explained,
"This is a Mintrones. It will grow up to be a very powerful Mintrone in the crystal habitat."
This Mintrones looked so adorable. Its antennae twitched and its soft body quivered.
"Incredible!"
exclaimed Tyron. Rada knelt down and took the Mintrones in her arms. "It's so soft and tiny," whispered Rada. As Rada petted the creature, Tyron recorded all that had happened so far on his gildet. A gildet was a device on his spacesuit near Tyron's neck that enabled him to save his thoughts by transferring his brainwaves. The gildet projected a hologram based on the person's thoughts and what they saw. Once verified, it could save the person's thoughts to view later.
Octorian said, "Let us now head to the liquid habitat."
As Rada and Tyron turned to leave, the tiny Mintrones opened its lightning blazer and launched a small crystal that chased Rada around till she fell down laughing. Tyron and Rada said goodbye to Mintrones as they followed Octorian out of Cave Taz.
Octorian explained, "A Mintrone typically lives for a few hundred Ziplo years. When their time on planet Ziplo is done, they return to Taz. Taz has a labyrinth that leads them on a serpentine path to the Salvadome. The Mintrones whose time is done will lie down in a casket in the Salvadome. In 3 days, they turn to powder. The powder is sent down to the core, restoring the strength of that Mintrone back to the core to help facilitate new life."
"You Mintrones have a very fascinating life cycle," remarked Rada as they headed towards the teleporter. Chapter 4. The Ride of a Lifetime. The hemispherical shape of the planet Ziplo was well adapted for its division into habitats along its latitudes. The teleporter ran across the length of the planet, transporting the Mintrones to the habitat of their choice. They now headed to liquid habitat via the teleporter. The liquid habitat turned out to be quite a place to visit. This habitat was encompassed of a sea of dark blue liquid with rocky arches rising up to the sky. As Octorian, Tyron, and Rada entered the liquid habitat, Bubble Bloom, a very powerful Mintrone, came to greet them. 2 main liquid currents that ran across the habitat were used by the Mintrones living there to get around the area. Octorian bid goodbye to Tyron and Rada for the time being and promised to be waiting for them by the teleporter when their exploration there was done. Bubble Bloom said, "Welcome, Tyron and Rada, guests of the Great Scepter. How would you like to ride on my back and explore our habitat?" "We would love to do that," beamed Rada. "Hop on my back and I will show you around," said Bubble Bloom. Tyron and Rada hopped on to Bubble Bloom's back and held on. They were not quite sure what kind of ride they were in for. As Bubble Bloom got ready to use turbo boost power, Tyron and Rada were about to witness just how incredible a world and its creatures they had stumbled upon. With Tyron and Rada settled on its back, Bubble Bloom turned on liquid jets that came out of its tail, and out they shot into the sky at an enormous speed. Tyron and Rada held on as they were lifted with ease up and well above the deep blue sea. Bubble Bloom twisted its body this way and that as it maneuvered them through the arches and soared high. It scooped down to skim the liquid sea before it soared up again. Rada screamed out with excitement. Tyron's heart was pounding wildly. He held on with all he had as they went on the most amazing ride of their lives. They glided over the vivid liquid habitat below. It was a sight both of them would never forget. Great rocky arches reached up to the sky out of calm sea of the darkest blue liquid they had ever seen.
"This is the most exhilarating ride ever!" shouted Tyron.
Tyron and Rada had flown many times before, but only in man-made machines. Never had they ridden a creature as incredible and alive as Bubble Bloom. They held on to Bubble Bloom and could feel its powerful body beneath them as they glided over the sea. They felt one with this alien creature they had only just met. Tyron did not want to let go. All of a sudden, from a great height, Bubble Bloom plunged towards the dark sea. Just as they thought they would be submerged into the liquid sea, Bubble Bloom generated a bubble shield around them and had them floating on the surface. They fell off of Bubble Bloom's back and rolled over in the super bubble, screaming and laughing with delight. Bubble Bloom gazed down curiously at them. They lay in the super bubble, taking in the wondrous world around them. After some time, Tyron spoke.
"Thank you for the ride of our lives. I think it is time we head back to the teleporter. We enjoyed seeing the liquid habitat a lot."
Tyron and Rada made a new friend in Bubble Bloom who invited them back to the liquid habitat any time they liked. As they headed back to the teleporter, they saw Bubble Bloom use its liquefy power, turn into liquid, and flow away and reform on a nearby rock.
"Oh, wow! Goodbye, and thank you, Bubble Bloom!"
cried Rada, absolutely astonished with what they had seen. Little did they know that their paths would cross again sooner than any of them had imagined. Chapter 5. Utter Chaos. Tyron and Rada met up with Octorion at the teleporter. Octorion mentioned that the fire habitat was quite spectacular to see. That is where the three of them headed to next.
"Firewalk is expecting us. He will take you around our fire habitat,"
informed Octorion. As they passed the deflector shield, they met Firewalk, a super powerful Mintrone in this habitat.
"Greetings, creatures from Earth. I hear that you are called Tyron and Rada. Join me as I show you the fire habitat," said Firewalk.
"We explored the liquid habitat with Bubble Bloom and had a lot of fun doing it. Now we are really looking forward to what you will show us," said Rada. As Tyron and Rada followed Firewalk, Octorion promised to be waiting for them at the teleporter when they returned. Tyron and Rada entered a wondrous volcanic world with Firewalk. Everywhere they looked, they saw a lot of molten lava. Tyron shivered as a stray thought of losing their dials ran through his mind. He imagined they would burn up in a second in this habitat without their dials. Small rocks lined the walls of the volcano that stood before them. From between the rocks popped up lava flowers that were glowing and hot. Tyron and Rada followed Firewalk as it ascended the first volcano with ease. They climbed over many rocks to reach the top of the hill. What they saw below took their breath away. Even though the habitat was filled with volcanoes, the entire place seemed strangely peaceful, unlike active volcanoes on Earth. Lava flowed down from the mouth of the crater, forming super-fast lava slides. The slides of lava flowed down and ended up as pools of lava in the valley between the volcanoes. Also flowing nearby was a red-hot lava river. Tyron and Rada realized how much the dials protected them, as they felt perfectly comfortable in the volcanic habitat. They were pretty certain their spacesuits would not be as effective in protecting them. Firewalk guided them to a super-fast flowing, curvy lava slide and urged them to ride it. Rada was the first to go on. Tyron reluctantly joined in as they both sped down from the top of the volcano to the lava pool at the bottom. It felt as if they were riding a super tall water slide. Rada screamed with sheer joy while Tyron held his breath as they raced down, followed by Firewalk close behind them. They all ended up in the lava pool together. They lay there floating, taking in the glowing world around them. Tyron and Rada were filled with wonder at this world and its creatures. They had some exciting experiences to share with their family back home on planet Earth. After some time, Firewalk suggested they surf the waves on the lava river. Firewalk guided them to some rocky plates that would serve as surfboards for them. Now this was something Tyron knew he would love to do. He had grown up surfing on the ocean by his home on planet Earth. Tyron urged, "Catch me if you can," as he jumped onto the lava waves with his rocky plate. Rada joined it too. Firewalk followed them closely. The lava river was denser than the water back home on planet Earth. Initially, both Tyron and Rada found it hard to stay on their rocky plates. As they zoomed forward with the waves carrying them, they started to get the hang of it. Both of them started to have a wonderful time as they maneuvered their rocky plates through the lava waves. It blew their minds how well protected they were from the intense heat of this habitat because of their dials. With Tyron leading the way, they surfed forward on their rocky plates, taking in the glowing world around them. Just as they were cruising along, they felt a terrible crash deep below them. It made the loudest roaring sound they had ever heard. The whole habitat seemed to be shaking and breaking around them. All of a sudden, the previously calm lava river that they were cruising on became a wild lava rush. All around them, the rocks on the volcanoes were crashing down as if in an avalanche. The noise around them was deafening. The whole planet seemed to be shaking at its very core. The sky had darkened a lot and made it hard to the three of them to keep an eye on each other. Tyron and Rada tried hard to hold on to the rocky plates. Something cataclysmic was happening to planet Ziplo. Firewalk needed to get Tyron and Rada to Septor as soon as possible.
"Hang on!" screamed Firewalk.
But Tyron and Rada could not hear Firewalk. The now raging lava river made it very hard for them to communicate. It was very loud and scary there. Tyron was able to reach a small rocky island on the river. Firewalk saw that Tyron was safe and started towards Rada. Just then, Rada lost her footing on her rocky plate and was fast disappearing from their view as the furious river carried her away. Tyron saw his childhood friend of many adventures slipping away. Firewalk yelled, "Wait where you are, Tyron! I will get Rada!" But Tyron did not hear Firewalk at all. Immediately, he did the only thing that he could think of. He jumped back in with his rocky plate, trying his hardest to reach Rada. Tyron had done what Firewalk had hoped he would not do. Now Firewalk had to get both Tyron and Rada. Firewalk started to use its emblaze power where it could speed up to try and reach them. Firewalk was quite stumped with what was going on with its planet. It had never seen Planet Ziplo in this state of unrest and fury. Something was very wrong. Firewalk reached Tyron first. Firewalk knelt so Tyron could hop on its back. It sped forward, carrying Tyron to try and catch up with Rada. Rada was being carried away by the boisterous waves towards the lava falls. Firewalk had to get to her before she fell over. It was not sure it could find Rada after that point. Tyron felt quite heavy on Firewalk's back. Tyron could feel the creature straining beneath him as it tried to reach Rada in time. "Rada, hold on! We are coming for you!" cried Tyron. They could hardly see Rada now. Firewalk generated a huge burst of speed to catch up with Rada just as she was reaching the lava falls. Tyron grabbed her arm and held on till she could climb over to Firewalk's back, too. Tyron could tell Rada was exhausted from her struggle. He held on to his dear friend as if he would never let her go. Firewalk carried them both towards the teleporter, avoiding many falling rocks on the way. As they reached the teleporter, they met an anxious-looking Octorion. It admitted, "We don't know what is happening on planet Ziplo. It is good to see that you are both safe. Firewalk has protected you well. Septor has called all Mintrones to the Salvadome. Let's go." Tyron and Rada saw that the teleporter was filled with all different kinds of Mintrones fleeing their habitats. They exited the teleporter with all the other Mintrones and headed for the Salvadome. Chapter 6. Meet the Zonetrones. Closer than anyone knew was the planet Tergata, the dark hemispherical planet of the Zonetrones. This neighbor of planet Ziplo was being drawn nearer to it with every passing moment. The chaos on planet Ziplo was caused by a huge magnetic asteroid which had entered their planetary system. The magnetic asteroid was attracting the two neighboring planets, Ziplo and Tergata, and fusing them together. The asteroid was acting as the core of the new planet being formed by the fusion of these two worlds. On planet Tergata, the quaking in their world scared all the Zonetrones. They rushed to see their leader Draxon. Draxon was the dark, evil lord of the Zonetrones with a wish to conquer and rule other planets. So far, Draxon was limited by the power in the possession of the Zonetrones. All the power of Draxon was concentrated in a red crystal cube on Tergata's deepest cave. All the Zonetrones scurried to the cave to seek Draxon's protection and get direction. Draxon spoke in a deep, harsh voice.
"Today is a great day for the Zonetrones. Even though our world seems to be falling apart, it is not the case. Our world is being fused by a magnetic asteroid with our neighboring planet, Ziplo. Ziplo is home to Septor. If we are able to steal the power cube from Ziplo, it can give us supreme power to conquer new worlds."
Just then, they heard the loudest crash. It seemed to be originating from the very core of Tergata. Displaced rocks from the cave's ceiling came crashing down on the Zonetrones. The Zonetrones were being drawn to the ground by a powerful energy. As Tergata trembled, Draxon continued.
"Our world is joined with Ziplo now. This disorder will calm down. Zonetrones, head back to your habitats now. I want Leech, Torterra, and Shriek to lead an army of hammerheads and secure the power cube of the Mintrones for us. Come together and leave on this mission right away."
Leech, Torterra, and Shriek were extremely powerful Zonetrones. They came forward, bowed to Draxon, and promised to head out on the mission right away. Chapter 7. Prepare for the Battle. Back on Ziplo, in the Salvadome, the great Scepter addressed the Mintrones.
Today is a dark day for our planet. A huge magnetic asteroid from a parallel universe entered our planetary system. It has attracted our planet and joined us forever with another neighboring hemispherical planet, planet Tergata. This collision and fusion of our worlds has caused all the chaos in the habitats. The unrest of the habitats will settle down soon, but I am not sure the peace of our planet will settle down as quickly. Unfortunately, the planet Tergata is a dark world with a dark and evil leader, Draxon. Draxon is the leader of the Mintrones, an evil race with desires to take over other worlds. They have always been limited in power before. Draxon knows exactly what has happened today and will want to take away our power cube in order to increase their dark powers by draining our precious resource. I expect him to send his army of Mintrones towards us for the power cube. We have to be on our guard. I choose Firewalk, Tornado Swirl, Bubble Bloom, and Mintrones to use your great abilities and protect our power cube from the Mintrones. All other Mintrones head to the great chamber below the Salvadome. You can be safe there till the unrest in the habitats dies down. Soon you can head back to the habitats when our world has normalized. The deflector shields at the exit of the teleporters will turn on so only Mintrones and no Mintrones can cross over into the habitats.
Firewalk, Tornado Swirl, Bubble Bloom, and Mintrones stepped forward. Scepter now addressed Tyron and Rada.
You have come in peace, and we have enjoyed having you as our guests. Unfortunately, because of circumstances beyond our control, our world has been thrown into disarray. I would not like for you both to come to any harm. Your spaceship is ready, and you are welcome to leave planet Ziplo. Maybe we will see you again in the future.
Tyron spoke up.
Oh, great Scepter, we thank you for your hospitality. We have loved this journey through some of the habitats on your planet. We think that it is a wonderful world and have made some great friends such as Bubble Bloom, Firewalk, and Octorion. We cannot leave you when adversity faces your planet and its creatures. We would like your permission to stand alongside our new friends to protect planet Ziplo.
Rada said,
I agree. We would like to stay and help you with any challenge you may face from the Mintrones.
Scepter said,
I see you are smaller than us in size, but you have a lot of courage and heart. You can stay and help us in this challenging time. Just take care. Your new friends will protect you too. I am not sure how you can help us, though.
Tyron and Rada were glad Scepter agreed to let them stay on. They were determined to help their new friends. Tyron said,
Well, we can patrol the sky with our Explorapods and inform you if we see any approaching Mintrones. Even though we have some weapons on our Explorapods, my father has prohibited the use of them unless our own lives are in danger. We cannot attack any alien creatures without enough reason. But we will act as your lookouts and inform our friends if we spot any Mintrones. But how can we recognize them?
That is a great question. I will now provide you with the creatureology parchments from our ancestors. It will tell you about the kind of Mintrones that would possibly be attacking us. As you read from the parchments, the language in the parchment will appear to you as if it were your own. Study this with the 4 great Mintrones who take on the task of protecting us. It will help you warn them if you find any Mintrones coming our way. This is our battle, and we will fight it. We thank you for all the help you are extending. I sense that trouble is not too far away. We better be on our watch.
As they waited, A stack of parchment manifested itself below the power cube. Tyron took them from there and started to go over them with Rada. All of a sudden, it struck Rada that it had been many hours since they had eaten, and her stomach was growling. Rada said,
"Hey, Tyron, I am quite hungry. Let's go to our spaceship and eat some food. Then we can head out to start our lookout using our explorapods. You take the creatureology parchments with you. We will read it on our way."
That sounds like a good plan. Bye for now, Mintrones. We will report back to you as soon as we see something, said Tyron. They reached the spaceship soon enough and ate some food.
The exploropod was a small machine designed for one person for planet exploration. It was a transparent, round machine that rolled over the planet's surface. The inner ball in the machine was where the explorer sat, and that compartment did not rotate. The machine could take off using its 2 ejecting propellers and fly at a low height when necessary. Tyron and Rada sat in their explorapods, tested for radio contact with each other, and set off. They moved by land briefly before taking off to the sky. They flew for a while without seeing any danger. Chapter 8. The Great Fight. Just as they were about to turn back, Tyron heard Rada's voice on the radio screaming, "Tyron, look forward!" As Tyron glanced forward, they both saw a huge army of Zontrones heading in the general direction of the Salvadome. Tyron referred to the parchment to find out that what was headed their way was a sea of hammerheads guided by Leech, Torterra, and a Shriek. Tyron said to Rada, "We better head back and warn the Mintrones of what is headed their way. Come, Rada, back to the Salvadome."
"Aye, aye, Tyron,"
said Rada as she followed Tyron back to the Salvadome. The Mintrones were waiting for them. Tyron said, "We have an army of hammerheads headed our way. They are led by very powerful Zontrones, Leech, Shriek, and Torterra. I read the creatureology parchment on the way here to help identify the Zontrones. It sounds as if we are facing some tough opponents here." Mintrones spoke. "We are not afraid. Let's work together to get our planet through this dark time." Firewalk, Tornado Swirl, and Bubble Bloom nodded agreement. They all studied the creatureology parchment to understand their opponents and figure out how best to deal with them. Before they got to the hammerheads, they heard the huge roar of screaming hammerheads coming towards the Salvadome. They all rushed outside. Tyron and Rada boarded the explorapods. Tyron held on to the parchments. Before they took off, they promised to help the Mintrones as much as possible. As the 4 Mintrones moved forward, they were confronted by a sea of hammerheads rushing to smash into them. Firewalk started the response. It used fire thrust and blasted fireballs towards the hammerheads. The hammerheads were being taken down as the fireballs smashed into them. Bubble Bloom used grip blast and sprayed a blast of acidic bubbles at the hammerheads, bringing many down. Tornado Swirl used ground twister by thrusting its horn into the ground and blasting pressured air through the ground. A bunch of hammerheads went crashing down the cracks. Mintrones used Z-blast on the hammerheads, and many giant bee-like creatures called Z's came out attacking the hammerheads. Tyron and Rada looked on from the air. They felt powerless to help their Mintrone friends. Even as all 4 Mintrones battled hard, more and more hammerheads kept coming at them. The hammerheads were so many that even 4 great Mintrones battling them at the same time could not seem to eliminate all of them. Just then, Rada observed something. She saw Leech, Torterra, and Shriek sneaking towards the Salvadome as the sea of hammerheads kept all 4 Mintrones engaged. She screamed,
Watch out, Littronos! Leech, Torterra, and Shriek are headed towards the Salvadome. Go and stop them!
All 4 Mintrones heard Rada's screams.
Littronos said, "On it, Rada. Thanks. Tornado Swirl, you stop Torterra. Leech seems to be inside the Salvadome. I am going after it. Bubble Bloom, take on Shriek, please." Firewalk shouted, "Go ahead. I will take care of these hammerheads and scare these distractions away. Watch out now, hammerheads. You are about to get a lot of heat."
Firewalk turned on its Emblaze power, where it set itself on fire and started ramming into the hammerheads. It used its lava punch in combination with Emblaze. Fiery fists came out of Firewalk's back as it cleared through the hammerheads by punching and ramming through the group. Tornado Swirl used its wind-swift power to jump high and land in front of Torterra, blocking its way into the Salvadome. Torterra was a huge Zonetrone made up of moving slime and capable of consuming anything in its path. Torterra, it seems, had no intention of having anything come its way. As Tornado Swirl stood its ground, Torterra moved forward and engulfed it. It began to swallow Tornado Swirl into itself. Tornado Swirl felt its breath being knocked out and was starting to suffocate as Torterra moved on with engulfing it. As the parchment had stated, Tornado Swirl knew it needed to create a disturbance inside Torterra, and quick, in order to defeat it. Summoning all its power, Tornado Swirl used Tornado Rope, where it unlocked its black ring and set free a spinning tornado inside Torterra. The tornado spun the slimy body of Torterra around so fast that it scattered into pieces, freeing Tornado Swirl from it. Inside, Littronos caught Leech trying to get closer to the power cube. Littronos unleashed crystal bolts repeatedly, hoping to strike Leech and stop it. But each time, Leech was too fast for the crystal bolts. Leech evaded the crystal bolts easily and crushed them to bits with its tail drill. Littronos was trying hard to hold Leech at bay. Back outside, as the scattered Torterra tried to get back together, Tornado Swirl used its ground twister power. It thrust its horn into the ground and blasted pressured air through it, causing the ground around to shatter, trapping Torterra in. Tornado Swirl sensed that Littronos needed its help and rushed inside the Salvadome. Bubble Bloom took on Shriek as Firewalk continued to fend off the hammerheads. Shriek came flying over Bubble Bloom with the spinning gears. Bubble Bloom created a bubble shield around itself that bounced all the spinning gears back. Shriek launched out a giant spinning blade at Bubble Bloom to pop its bubble shield. Right away, Bubble Bloom popped the super bubble, liquefied, and flowed away. As a surprised Shriek watched the liquid flow below its giant blade with no trouble at all, Bubble Bloom reformed behind Shriek. Bubble Bloom knew from the parchment that one way to destroy the giant blade now headed for the Salvadome was by striking it dead center. It turned on its roll-dozer power and rammed into the center of the spinning blade, shattering it into bits. As a stunned Shriek watched from the air, Bubble Bloom turned on its turbo boost power. Liquid jets out of Bubble Bloom's tail enabled it to gain speed as it steered straight at Shriek. Bubble Bloom smashed into Shriek, knocking it to the ground. It then captured Shriek in a super bubble and rejoined Firewalk to fight the hammerheads. As Tornado Swirl stepped into the Salvadome, it saw Littronos using its Z-burst power. Just as the Z's rushed to attack Leech, Leech screamed, "Erga!" Tornado Swirl shouted to Littronos, "Leech is using its dark matter power that can make our brain limp and aimless. Close your eyes, Littronos."
Mintrones followed Tornado Swirl's lead, but it was too late for the Z's. The Z's flopped to the ground, looking listless and confused. Tornado Swirl used the sparkle spray on Leech that blinded Leech temporarily. Mintrones used this chance to unleash its flap trap power. Lightning sparked out of its body and turned into an electric rope that then wrapped around Leech and captured it. Mintrones and Tornado Swirl breathed a sigh of relief as they took the captured Leech outside. They did not realize that this battle was not over yet. As they got out, Leech screamed, "Attach!" Hearing Leech's order, all the hammerheads started to join to form a gigantic hammerhead that was towering over them all. It then headed for the Salvadome. All the 4 Mintrones started to use various attacks, but nothing seemed to affect the hammerhead formation. It seemed unstoppable. All the Mintrones were at a loss as to how to combat this strange Zonetrone formation. They had not read about this attack from the Zonetrones in the parchments. Tyron, who was flying in his explorer pod, searched frantically on the parchments for something that would help them. As he looked, he found that the only way to combat the attach attack of the hammerheads was to strike at the antenna of the giant hammerhead. This could bring the whole formation down and render the hammerheads powerless. Tyron thanked his stars that he had thought to bring along the parchment. None of the Mintrones had a chance to learn about this yet. As the attach hammerhead moved forward, Tyron swooped down in his explorer pod and screamed, "Hey! Aim for the antenna! It's the only way to bring this formation down!" The 4 Mintrones heard Tyron. They all aimed their attacks at the antenna of the gigantic hammerhead formation. The formation came crashing down, leaving all the hammerheads powerless. The battle was finally over. Chapter 9. Farewell. Tyron and Rada landed their explorer pods and hugged each other. They were so happy that their new friends prevailed and that they were able to help. Octorion came forward and beckoned them all into the Salvadome. When they were all inside, Scepter spoke.
Zonetrones, our worlds have been joined today by circumstances beyond our control. But as you can see today, we are a very strong race and will do everything in our power to protect our peace and our life as we know it. You may go now, but take this message of defeat at our hands to Draxon. I hope that our paths will not cross again. You may leave."
As the defeated Zonetrones left, Scepter addressed Tyron and Rada.
You were both very brave and helpful. We thank you for all your help in saving the Mintrones from the Zonetrones. I would like to gift you with the Mind Dials. If you remember us and wish to be with Mintrones, the Mind Dials will let you teleport back to planet Ziplo. We now bid you goodbye and wish you a safe journey home. You are always welcome at planet Ziplo.
Tyron and Rada watched with bated breath as 2 dials manifested before the cube. They accepted them with excitement. Tyron said, "Visiting planet Ziplo and knowing the Mintrones has been an incredible experience for Rada and me. We thank you for this great gift. We will treasure this and will definitely use them to visit the friends that we have made here. Goodbye for now, dear Mintrones." "Bye-bye, and thank you. We will always remember you all," said Rada. The Mintrones surrounded Tyron and Rada as they bid goodbye to them. Octorion walked them to their spaceship. Tyron and Rada walked inside their spaceship. They took off the dials of protection and handed them to Octorion. As Octorion headed outside, Rada knew she would miss the Mintrones a lot.
She set the navigation to planet Earth. Tyron said, "Planet Earth, here we come." They took off from planet Ziplo and zoomed through space, headed for the most special place in the universe for them, home on planet Earth. This has been The Day the Worlds Met, a Mintrones storybook, conceived by Gavi, written by Team Mintrones, narrated by Holly Adams of Shearwater Productions. Copyright 2014 Inventi World Incorporated. Production copyright 2014 by Inventi World Incorporated.